Thank you for joining us, Patrick and Caitlin. We are very happy to have you. And let's get started with a few questions about ataxia. Okay, so first, please tell us something about yourself.
Okay. Again, Colleen has a spinocerebellar ataxia, and you've had it for about 13 years. Yep, about 13 years. And so she did not actually have signs that started coming on until actually probably maybe it was a couple of years previous to that, correct? Maybe 15 years ago you started having symptoms, and it was with walking. Your walking gait was incorrect. Yeah. So when her symptoms first started coming on, it was kind of like her balance was kind of uneasy. Kind of balance thrown off and that type of thing. And then that was the first symptom that came on, and then after that was slurred speech, correct? Yep. So then she started noticing symptoms of her speech starting being slurred, and it was around that time you started seeing neurologists, right? Yep. So, but previous to that, before 15 years ago, there was no symptoms when she, from the time that she was born, up until the time she was about, you'd been about late 20s, right? Yeah, there were no symptoms up until then. The symptoms just started coming on in her late 20s.
Okay, and may I ask how old is she now?
You're 40, you see I'm 47, 45. Hey, I got it right. 45.
Okay. All right. So, did you face any difficulties, during this diagnosis, or was it a late diagnosis, or was it a diagnosis on time?
She went, when she first started seeing neurologists, she actually saw before we went to Mayo, you saw 8, was it 8 different neurologists? Okay. Yeah, at the time, we were living in southern Wisconsin, and she actually went to 8 different neurologists in the area. And at the time, the doctors, even neurologists, were not very familiar with ataxia, and they would see there were certain symptoms that appeared to be, it could be one thing, it could be another thing, and it wasn't until we ended up going and getting a referral to Mayo Clinic, and by this time she had a lot of MRIs, and there was, she had been monitored for a number of years. And then when we went to Mayo Clinic, they definitively made the diagnosis that she does have spinocerebellar ataxia.
Okay. So, all right. And now, would you like to tell me about how is it living with ataxia for her?
Yeah, living with it. She has her type of ataxia. From the last reading that I saw, that there's about 40 different types of SCA, and her type is unknown. And the type that she has is it progresses quite quickly, actually. And so for her, of course, the first things that we noticed, like I mentioned, was her walking gait, her speech, and now as it's kind of continued with different types of motor functions. She can communicate with her phone. She can type with her phone, but the motor function with her fingers is slower today than it was maybe 10 years ago, even 5 years ago. And one of the latest challenges has been her core function. So when she's sitting up in a chair, she may slump from one side to the other, and so that's been the latest the function that we've seen. as kind of her core. Also, another concern that we've had to work with over the last couple of years has been swallowing. Before we left Wisconsin, she went to have a number of swallow studies done to make sure that there wasn't a choking risk. And the last one that she had done, everything is still functioning properly, but it was explained to us that the muscles that control her epiglottis are going to eventually, that's going to be affected as well. But to
Okay.
date, what we've been able to do with her swallowing food, we've been able to prepare her food at the right consistency where she still is able to eat a solid food.
Okay. Okay. So you brought out topics of our profession. So you said that she's having difficulty with motor functions and she's able to communicate through typing mainly, and that she's also having difficulty in swallowing. So then would you want to, tell about the role of rehabilitation in her journey? So by rehabilitation, I mean physiotherapist, speech and swallowing therapist, occupational therapist. How has it helped you?
We actually, early on, she actually investigated that as far as the type of rehabilitation efforts. But the challenge that she has is when she was doing the type of therapy, just the therapy itself would wear her down so much that it would really wear her out. And
Mhm.
so since she has been diagnosed, she actually has not partaken in any type of therapy since that came up. Is that correct? Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So currently she's not on taking any therapy, as you said.
No, no,
All right.
that's correct. She is not.
Okay. Okay. Would you want to, say more about her? How has it affected her quality of life, as in her socializing or, meeting people, her even her personal life?
Uh, that's a very interesting question, and many people, and they meet and they understand our journey a little bit. Of course it is affected. There's I'll ask as I'm talking. These are things that I perceive, and Colleen will confirm yes or no. But as far as friends, that many of your friends, the socialization, like in person, kind of dropped off. Do you think it was difficulty really not understanding how to communicate? Yeah. So with many of her friends that she had, and as her condition progressed, uh, I guess there was more distance, maybe, to explain it that way. She didn't see her friends as often anymore. And so as her condition progressed, the my involvement had to get more intense, of course, where from when we were both working, Colleen had to retire, and then I had to leave my last job to become her full-time caregiver. So from a socialization standpoint, it's changed dramatically. But I guess it's very important to talk from a quality of life standpoint. Spiritually is a very different matter. Um, Colleen has, through this whole process, has developed a manner of living, through her spiritual journey that has been very special. Through this whole time, as she continues to lose functions, she still is very positive. She never complains about what the next challenge is, and she's accepted what this is for her, what this journey is for her. And so from that standpoint, she's a very special person because she hasn't allowed this to change her outlook as far as this is the challenge that life has given her. And so she has just taken that as okay, this is what it is, and that's how she's adapted to life and to enjoy life, with her current condition or current circumstance. So from that standpoint, she's very, very strong.
Okay, yeah, I can see that such she's such an inspiration, and she's really strong. She's really mentally strong as well. So yeah, that's a very good message. Thank you, sir. Okay, so you mentioned that you have been taking a very, frontline role in her life now. So as a caregiver, how was it for you? What things that how was the transition for you, and what challenges did you face as a caregiver?
It I'd have to say well, for me, when her condition started progressing, at the time I used to work in sales. I was traveling quite a bit, and when it got to a point where it was no longer safe for Colleen to take care of herself when I traveled, I took a different job within my company to work from home, and I was able to take care of her, when I was working from home, and I was trying to work and care for her, and it became such where I couldn't. My focus wasn't on work. It was becoming more and more of my time was taken having to take care of her, and so what happened is I eventually left. When we went out on our current journey, as we've been traveling and seeing the country, I ended up leaving that role, and so then when I started caring for her, that's when I became, this is my sole responsibility. And I'd have to say probably the biggest challenge for me is how it continues to progress. And as it progresses, there's different, there's more that is required from me to be able to adapt to her changing condition. Um, we're starting to get to a point where I know I've been doing everything by myself to this point, is finding help, for a caregiver. So we do know at some point it's going to get to a place medically where we'll need more help. And so I'd have to say right now we're, I'm trying to do this as long as I can by myself, but we both know that at some point we're going to need further help.
Yeah, okay, kudos to you, sir, for being supportive with her all throughout this. And yes, it is important to seek help. In fact, you can always do that. If I'm not sure in your area if you have any support groups, any organizations, who do provide care and help and assistance to individuals with ataxia, you can always ask for help. Okay.
Yeah, we attended. As a matter of fact, last year we attended the National Ataxia Foundation, the meeting in Las Vegas, and so I made contact with some people. And as a matter of fact, there was different caregivers. They had one of the meetings was just for caregivers, which was very, that was very. I'll say it was. There was a relationship that you have with other caregivers because they know what you're going through, and we haven't looked at that yet since we've been traveling. We now live in we have a residence in Yuma, Arizona, and that's where we go back for the winter. So as winter's starting to approach here, we're on our way back to Arizona, and some of these things we're going to seek out, the type of care that we're going to need. So that's
Okay.
when we get back home, that's what we'll be looking to do.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Now, would is there anything you would want to say about giving tips to people in general about what things to take care of when they are speaking with a person with ataxia, what things to keep in mind, and any general tips that you would want to give. This, of course, you can ask her as
I
well.
yeah, actually, um, her question is any tips that you'd like to give. Um, she'll type out what she wants to say,
Yeah, yeah,
and
sure.
then I can read them to you. Um, but I would have to say from our experience and what I've learned and communication conversations that Colleen and I have had has really been that what you see on the outside is, there's a judgment that happens from people on the outside. When we go out in public, there's of course a lot of people stare and they wonder, what the problem is. And I hate to say the thing, but there's a stigma associated with what is normal. Um, but with Colleen, she's very sharp. I mean, there, even though the physical, her communication on the outside is very, it's difficult for people to identify with. But her mind is extremely sharp, and I think that, I know that's one of the frustrations that she has, that people see her and and they think that she's declined mentally as well, and that's not the case. She's very sharp. She's very aware of everything that's going on, and and it really is. It's quite special because there's things that she experiences and she appreciates. Some of the very normal, things for many of us we may take for granted, and for her, it's how she experiences it is in a very different way from the way that I experience it, or many of us that don't are not fighting the same battle that she is.
Okay.
Um, one of the things that we have done along our journey um, has been acceptance. The when we went in, the last neurologist she saw at the Mayo Clinic, he talked about quality of life. Now, by that point, Colleen had already accepted what's going on and the challenges that she's going to face. She had a good idea of what the future, what was going to happen. And one of the big things that both of us actually have in common with our both of our journeys is acceptance. And as we accept, here are the things that we can't change as far as her condition goes, that when we accept it, then we're able to go out and there's just different things that we do when we go out. As a matter of fact, right now we're on the west coast of the United States. We're in Northern California, and one of the greatest things that we've been able to do since we've traveled down the coast is finding beaches. There's a lot of beaches that are accessible, and we simply go out and enjoy being on the beach and just soaking up that type of the weather and the water and whatnot.
Okay.
Colleen's message, to people that um, may be caring for, or they come in contact with people with ataxia, is be patient and be kind.
Okay. Yeah. That's really great. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I think that's a very good session for, you know, for people to be aware about ataxia and what the challenges they face. So, in fact, we've had a similar interview in our country, India, with the president of Ataxia Foundation. And she is a patient of ataxia herself. And we found a lot of similarities in your journey, about how much awareness is there in people, and, the points of acceptance of the condition, the points of quality of life, the challenges, the kind of challenges you all face. And it's very important for people to be sensitized about these things, to,
Hmm.
for more acceptance and for more inclusion. So because I mean it's not there everywhere. So that is what is the
Hmm.
purpose of this interview, to spread this message more and more and to sensitize people more. So, and you have been a significant part of it. So thank you very much again. And, I hope to see you all again